Tortuga Caspi is one of those plants you may not have heard of. I never really heard of it either. I noticed on sacredtreeessences.com, they've got a whole big list of amazing plant medicines ranging from Ayayuma, Shiwawaku, Bobinsana, a whole bunch of things that I had heard about and wanted to try. But then there was another one down at the bottom, which is called Tortuga. Now, most of the other plant medicines have reviews, people have commented, but nobody had said anything about Tortuga. And I was like, what's the deal with Tortuga? Why is nobody spoken about Tortuga yet? So I was really curious about it and decided maybe it'd be interesting to give it a try. And so I got a bottle and figured, let's see what happens. Now, the interesting thing is that on some of the other descriptions of the other medicines, there are some really sort of interesting descriptions about like destroying negative energies and opening up your heart. And the Tortuga, the description is kind of tranquil. It's kind of like, well, you can learn to balance out various parts of who you are. And maybe it doesn't sound quite as exciting as the other ones. And I was thinking maybe that's why there's not so many reviews about it. So I got it, and I figured I'll give it a try. So this is kind of my report on my experiences over the last 4 days with Tortuga Caspi, which on the website is just known as Tortuga. And it's actually really beautiful. Because there's not much information about it. As you know, there's not much information about a lot of these plants. And I also got a bottle of Shiwawaku, which is known as it's one of the big important shamanic plants, shamanic trees. But what's really terrible about a lot of this stuff is Shiwawaku is also most widely used as like hardwood flooring in homes. And it's such a tragedy, really, that like these plants with these profound intelligences are just wrecked and destroyed just to put on people's floors. It's such madness the human race is committing. But anyway, the Tortuga is this beautiful plant. I looked up online. I found this wonderful photo, which I'm going to put here. There's this amazing like nut, I guess it is, of the Tortuga plant. And if you look at its shell, there is something about it which kind of looks like a tortoise, because Tortuga is Spanish for tortoise. And one of the things that Mimi says in her description is that the head medicine spirit of the Tortuga is a giant land turtle. And so a turtle, I guess that's different than a tortoise, right? So it's this giant land turtle is the medicine spirit. And so, that's part of it. And then you look at that nut or whatever it is, and there's something turtleish about it, and it's beautiful. Now, if you look at that picture and you look at how beautiful that is, there's something about it. And a lot of nature is built off of an algorithm. I think it's an algorithm, it's called the Fibonacci Sequence. We've all heard of this probably. The Nautilus shell is built in the Fibonacci Sequence. Even the human body and animal's body are built on the Fibonacci Sequence, especially in ratios of parts. So if you look at the ratio, for example, of your bicep bone to your forearm bones, it's the ratio between them is the Fibonacci number. The same with the fingers. Between all the joints of the fingers, the ratio between them is Fibonacci. And Leonardo da Vinci discovered all this he didn't discover this, but he certainly was using this in his original paintings of man and this kind of stuff, right? So it's one of those things that people have recognized these proportions, the golden proportions, and it obviously went way before Leonardo, because they were using this in Greek architecture, and beyond that too. So it's got a wide sort of historical basis, the Fibonacci sequence. So why am I talking about this? I'm supposed to be talking about Tortuga Caspi. And I'm throwing in the Caspi in there because it sort of ties it into a sort of, because the medicine itself, calling it Tortuga, it sort of seems separate maybe from other plants. But you see, there's another medicine which Mimi sells is called Remo Caspi. So that's quite well known. And there are other Caspi trees also. So I'm calling it Tortuga Caspi to sort of put it more into that sort of general family of understanding. And anyway, the reason I'm mentioning about the Fibonacci sequence is that was one of my first interactions with the medicine. So the first day I took the drops, and it was a fairly tranquil day, but I thought, well, maybe I do feel a bit more balanced. And that was it. And, I'm very, very conservative. So I thought, I'm only going to take 1 or 2 drops. And, you know, that was cool. And I took like 1 or 2 drops that day, 2, maybe 3 drops I took in one day. The actual recommended dosage is 3 drops 3 times a day. So I took 3 drops all day. And I got this sort of light, sort of balanced feeling. So that was cool. But the next day I woke up and I'm lying in bed and I start becoming aware of the Fibonacci sequence. And I start thinking about the photograph of that nut and how the pattern is really based on the Fibonacci sequence. And all of a sudden, I started getting this flow of information coming through me, this amazing flow of information. And it was almost like, the way I've described it, it's almost like having like Isaac Newton in your head, along with Thomas Jefferson and Merlin. It was like having this personality which combined the 3 sort of ideal characteristics of that sort of mathematical genius, the enlightenment, the joy of the enlightenment, or the brightest mind of the enlightenment, with the magical side of it. And this voice was sort of guiding me through how Fibonacci, how this algorithm moves through all things, and then it also transforms into all other algorithms sort of naturally, maybe in ways which humans haven't discovered yet. But then it was showing me, it was sort of guiding me in a tour around sort of reality. And then it took me inside of myself and it started like analyzing my relationships using this algorithm and showing how all these ideas sort of dovetailed together. Now, in my view, this is like the finest aspects of like a wonderful ayahuasca journey. It's when you are schooled. You're schooled in the finest possible way by an entity or spirit who actually just wants to share the love. So it was a really powerful experience, and it was beautiful, and it kept going deeper and deeper, but it felt very safe and balanced, and it was a great experience. And you know, the whole day I was having experiences like that, and there was a really funny experience, which was it was at the same time when I woke up, I was having these sort of Fibonacci visions, and you know, it's cold here in Chile right now where I live. We're heading into winter. It's winter, and one of my cats, sneaks up onto the bed at night. So as I was sort of coming to the end of my little Fibonacci vision sequence, I turned my head to, you know, I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll get up. So I just turned my head and my cat was there. I look at my cat. Cat looks at me. Look at my cat. Cat looks at me, and poof, instant vision of my cat. And it was almost like how my cat sees itself, and how it sees itself as like a panther. Or maybe that was some vision given to me by the jungle medicine. But it was almost like I got this vision of this astral jaguar looking back at me. And it was sort of superimposed over the actual face of my cat, who's called Nieve, which means snow, because she's white cat. So that was a cool experience, and that day was really good. Now, an interesting thing that happened is the next day, I was like, I don't know what happened. I was like, I felt really unbalanced, and I don't know what happened. I was overeating. I was eating a lot of food, and not bad food. I wasn't really veering off diet or anything, but just lots and lots of food, and I just felt like, don't know what was going on. And I was like stuffed. And the funny thing is I didn't have much interaction with the plant that day. And this is something that Lara from the Garden of Peace, I think her website is gardenofpeace.com. They've got a retreat in Tarapoto in Peru. But her theory is that the human spirit has like a bandwidth. And if you exceed a vibrational bandwidth, there's nowhere for the plant to work. Now, with some plants, what they do is they push you out of the way violently, and they take control of the bandwidth. But what seemed to happen with Tortuga is like a turtle. And the way it felt is it was almost like the turtle just put its head in the shell. It put its head inside of its shell, and it just sort of, it went away. It went away, and it didn't communicate with me the whole day. Which was bummer, you know. No, what I did is, when was that? This might be day 5 I'm taking actually. But, so what I did was I took more drops. I doubled up. I ended up taking like 8 drops that day, which is really unusual for me. Usually I'll take 2 or 3 drops, and still nothing. The head didn't come out of the shell. And then, yesterday was kind of similar. It was kind of like, I was feeling a vibe. I was feeling energetic, but I wasn't really feeling connected. But today it sort of broke. And today what's been going on is I feel really energetic. So it's less communicative, but energetic. Yeah. So it's funny. I was just done getting my hair cut. And as I was getting my hair cut, the woman it was an old lady. She was like doing my hair and cutting my hair. And she's from Venezuela. Lots of economic problems. She just got here a couple of months ago. She was saying how, that you can't buy an apple. It's so expensive. And the families are really suffering. Really terrible. But what happened is I started feeling like my heart open up. And this energy of the turtle started flowing up through my head into her hand. And I don't know what happened, but there was this big transfer of this loving energy into her hand. And it's still going on now. Not into her hand, but I've got this massive heart opening from the turtle medicine, Tortuga. Feels really, really good. And I think it's a really good starter diet. A lot of people ask me, what's a good starter diet? A lot of people recommend like ajo sacha, which is actually quite strong. Other people recommend lighter diets like holy basil or rosemary. I had amazing visions taking rosemary, which is not typical, but if you've got an open third eye, amazing visions. Some of the most delicate, beautiful visions you'll ever have are doing rosemary tea. But I think Tortuga might be a potential too, because it's interesting. It's got a sort of low profile. It sort of sits in the background. It sits in the background, but when you focus on it and you say, hello, Tortuga, it kicks in. So I do the energy work. I'm moving energy around my finger, around my hands and my body. And, you move energy, you don't feel anything, but then you start saying, Tortuga, are you there? And you feel it instantly. And it's in your energy body. That's how all these medicines work, in my opinion. They become part of your energy body temporarily, and you can share information. Really, really wonderful experience. So I recommend Tortuga, sacredtreeessences.com. It's been a really light, but not that light, a really informative experience, and it's kind of like this experience where I feel like I'm being fed information, but it's very safe. It's just like it says in the description. It's very balanced. It's not like when I did Camelonga explodes. It's got so much knowledge. It's overwhelming, and if you want like a ride, get some Camelonga. I mean, that is hardcore, the Camelonga. But what Tortuga, it's like the day after an ayahuasca ceremony. It's the day after, and you've got that beautiful flow of information still coming to you, and you can still understand reality. You can still see the fractals in the trees, and that's what is Tortuga Caspi. So I highly recommend Tortuga Caspi. Tortuga. I think it's a really good beginner starting out thing, and not just for beginners, because it's so well balanced. It's a really great source of knowledge. And I think it will benefit if you do a strict diet with it. You'll really keep the flow of information moving. Funnily enough, today it's about lunchtime, and I've taken quite a lot of drops. I've taken about 9 drops already. And I think this is going to be the last day of my mini dieta here. So I'm going to have a nice, strong day. I'm going to go out and sit outside and really enjoy the plants and try and sort of communicate with them and see what happens. Yeah. So have a great day. Talk to you soon.